Hey guys, it's Allie. Welcome back to Infertile AF, the podcast. This is episode 89 called Abbe, Sophie, Allie, and Lena. Okay guys, so the reason that we're doing this bonus podcast episode today is because last week, as many of you know, Lena Dunham came out with an article in Harper's about her infertility experience, and it was very controversial. So Abbe and Sophie, who are fertility coaches and fertility warriors, who have InCircle Fertility, where they do coaching and give people a lot of support, and they're just big advocates in our community. We all decided to jump on a bonus podcast episode and just kind of talk about our thoughts on the article and mostly how we can do better as a community. So that's one thing that's come out of this, is that we all realize that communication needs to be a little bit better. There's factions of the community that feel unseen. So we are going to use this article as a catalyst to do better and be more inclusive and make everybody feel seen and heard. So without further ado, this is our conversation about the Lena Dunham article. I'm here with Abbe and Sophie, and we wanted to get on the phone like ASAP because there's so much controversy going around about this Lena Dunham article in Harper's. Hi, guys.
Hi.
There's so much to unpack. We don't have a ton of time, but I know we're all like fast talkers and fast thinkers, so I think we'll get to as much as we can. I just wanted to start by saying that I saw the article, the day it came out a couple of days ago, and my first thought was, yes, finally, like another celebrity. And actually, the reason I saw it was because a lot of people, friends of mine who are not in the infertility community, had texted me and been like, you got to get her on your podcast. You got to get on her podcast. And I was like, oh, she wrote an article. So I read it while Sunny was like falling asleep and I was on my phone and kind of scrolling. And I was like, oh, Lena, like my initial thoughts were like, some of her writing I thought was really great. Turns of phrase that were really good. Some of it was like eye roll inducing. Like I thought some of her points were very bratty and like holier than thou and white privilege. But I kind of was like, whatever, that's how she is. She's a provocateur. You know, this is her. And my initial takeaway was, if anybody is talking about infertility, it's a good thing. It gets the conversation going. You know, this is a positive thing. So I posted about it and I kind of cherry picked some of the lines that I thought were good. Went to bed, didn't really think much more of it. And then the next day, Abbe and Sophie and my business partner, Blair, and we were all texting about something. And then Abbe, you said, what did you guys think about my rant? And I was like, what rant? And then I read what you had posted about Lena, which we'll get into, which I thought was fantastic. And then I thought, whoa, people are really hurt by this. Let me give this another look. I don't think I like unpacked this enough or digested it enough. And I have to be honest, I was like, I didn't want to come across as somebody who was championing what she had said. Like I posted it because I was glad she wrote it. I didn't agree with everything, but then I got nervous because I'm like, I don't want to hurt anybody in our community. I'm so fiercely protective of this community, as I know you both are too. So for the first time ever, I took my post down because I was like, it's not worth it. I don't want to give her more publicity. I don't want to open wounds that are already hurting for people. And then I wrote another post with a quote from what you had said, Abbe, and kind of started another dialogue. So it was like a lot of different layers to this article.
So many layers.
All right. So taking it from that point, I guess let's start with Abbe. What was your initial thought? Because I think your post kind of got the whole ball rolling in terms of like the people I talk to on a regular basis.
And it's so funny that you say that because your post got my ball rolling.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Sophie really got my ball rolling. I saw the article briefly come out. I'm so guilty, as I think we all are, of headline reading and not going into the full thing. Of course, I knew I would, but I just saw like a very little bit of it. And then Sophie texted me about it and was like, listen, I'm going to do a post about this from our business Instagram account because I think there's a lot to say. And we'll get more into what Sophie's thoughts were. But, you know, her initial reaction is like support, support, support. Like you said, this is a voice in the community. And we are so used to just trying to maximize and amplify each other's voices that was her gut instinct, but she was like, I'm not going to post it until you've read the whole article and until I kind of reread it. Mm-hmm. And then I saw your post that was sort of in support, but really not very verbose. I noticed that you didn't say very much in what you wrote. And so I thought, wow, I feel like Allie is wanting to support this voice, but doesn't necessarily agree with everything. So she's keeping it very diplomatic.
Mm-hmm. That was my total
right. That was you. But I, you're a trusted voice that I listen to, and I know Sophie does too. And so then I read the whole article. This was, what day are we? Wednesday. So it was like Monday night. So funny how quickly this unfolded. And I was like livid and rageful and really pissed. And I kept like halfway through, I'd be like, Sophie, I'm a third of the way through and I want to scream, fuck you. But I'm going to keep reading.
I was talking her down.
Yeah. I was like, but I'm going to keep reading. So, because I was like, maybe it gets better, maybe whatever. And so Sophie had also almost a diplomatic post from our business account. And I said, like, I don't know if I can be diplomatic about this one. And she was like, yeah, I agree. And so, it was late. I didn't think this was going to like blow up the infertility community the way that it did. But the part that really, what I came away with was I just felt so used in terms of being a member of this community that really helped her get through a really tough time. She talks about the support that she had for 2 years by searching the hashtags that many of us use, namely infertility warriors, which is a badge that we mostly wear very proudly. And then I felt like exposed, like that whole time she was like, well, now let me write the parts where I was rolling my eyes.
Right.
And it felt very raw and just like, listen, we're still a very new community. We are figuring this out as we go as well. And we just want to find a way and an outlet for these women. How dare you use that outlet for what you need and then turn around and say what you don't like about it. It's just not right. And
you used the word betrayal, Abby.
Betrayal. Exactly. Yeah. I felt so betrayed. I felt like we are women opening ourselves up in these spaces, and it might not be for you, but don't shit on us. You can say, and I want to be very clear, and I am not an expert on, which I've learned even more so since a lot of these posts have gone up. I'm not an expert on speaking about childless women who did not choose to be childless.
Right.
And I want to learn more about the best way to acknowledge those sensitivities.
Agreed.
And I acknowledge the hurt for sure that Lena felt, and I believe is clearly still feeling. But you can express your hurt without really betraying an entire community. And that's where I was coming from. And Sophie, I wrote this very long post, and Sophie is always my best editor because I'm like, this is a rant from my head. And she was like, yeah, it's not making any sense. Or yes, it's exactly what we're all feeling. And, I ended up having to cut it down significantly to fit it within the confines of Instagram.
Right.
And I thought to myself, it's probably best that Instagram has that rule. I could have done more in comments, but I was like, it's probably best I shut up now before it goes a little crazy. So that's kind of where I was coming from. And then much to my delight, it opened the floodgates and many people posted about it after that.
Totally. I mean, everybody, like it's not, it wasn't many. It was like, but
everyone. Yeah.
Okay. Before I get into my opinion. So, all right, Sophie, tell me your thoughts.
Yeah. So my whole trajectory was almost the exact same as yours, Allie. I did an initial take of the article, and which actually ended up only being the first half because there were all these advertisements and I didn't keep scrolling. So I thought it ended halfway through, and I texted Abby, wow, this article is intense. It's very scathing. Yeah. Right. But then I went back and read the second half of the article. And after completing the article, I was left feeling incredibly guilty and ashamed. And that compelled me to draft the post that Abby was mentioning, which was very diplomatic and was very much from a place of like, oh, I think we may be guilty of what she's accusing us of, which is basically making her feel the way that we hate so much feeling ourselves by people in the fertile community, right? Like excluded and alone. And so I started writing this post about how we should make sure that we are being inclusive and make sure that we are honoring everyone's pain and suffering. And then Abby read the article and was like, whoa, and kind of confirmed what I initially felt, which was like, wow, this is really harsh. And not only is it harsh, but it is mean. It is mean spirited. And that, I think, is my main point of contention, in that, you know, we are all coming from this intensely vulnerable place, right? Where we are going through grief and disappointment and sadness and loss. So for her to say, you all over there, from whom I derived support when I needed it, are actually full of it, you know, and mocking us, really directly mocking us, just came across as cruel and unnecessary in telling her story. So we, you know, as Abbe said, our default in this community is support, right? Like we immediately want to make sure that no one feels the way that we are so used to feeling. We are so well practiced, right, in these feelings of resentment and bitterness and anger, right? So the prospect that we're making someone else feel that way, to me, was like, oh shit, like we need to make sure that we're not doing that to someone else. But that shame spiral that I went into after reading the article is actually so ironic.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I had the same thought where I was like, oh my God, I have like poured my heart and soul into this community, as you guys have, you know, with Fertility Rally and with my podcast and just day-to-day stuff with supporting people and trying not to be judgmental of people. And then I was like, oh my God, I never want to come across as like I'm hurting somebody. And that really made me sick to my stomach. The fact that people were so hurt. And then if my publicizing it could be misconstrued at all as supporting her opinion rather than supporting the fact that she had written it. You know what I mean? Like it's so complicated. Like I don't think there's any like right or wrong answers here. And I still think that, you know, her obviously she has the right to say whatever the fuck she wants. Like, you know, it was her opinion. And, you know, she's a provocateur and she's an artist and she likes to make people uncomfortable. But agreeing with you guys and what you guys both made me realize on a deeper dive was that she was being mean-spirited. And it was like making fun of Etsy and the people.
What is the purpose of that?
Like, you know, the people that you know, like taking digs at people. And that was just mean. And that was the point where I was like, oh, I kind of glossed over that because I was like, oh, she's just being Lena. But then I was like, wait, this is really hurtful. And this community is hurt enough already. Like,
exactly.
And that was the point where I kind of turned my opinion. And, you know, the stuff about the people having the dolls that look like babies. I was like, where is this coming? It was so random.
Downright cruel.
I felt like that was a dig, like a full on dig.
Trying to humiliate people for the way that they grieve just because you cannot relate to it.
Yeah.
It's just so unhelpful.
Yeah. And somebody's comment, I mean, there's been hundreds of comments now at this point on all the different posts that have gone up, but somebody said, I felt like I was reading like a movie script. Like it was almost like she was trying to paint a scene that would look good on a TV show or a movie without thinking about the repercussions. And I was like, that's such an interesting way to look at it because yes, that scene with the cop that found the doll in the car, that's a movie scene. That's not part of our community. Like, I mean, you know, it was.
And by the way, I mean, look, that's hard. That was hard for me to read as a reality that people go through. But do you know how deeply devastated you must be to replace your potential live child with a big doll?
Exactly.
So to poke fun at that is just so wrong.
Right.
And the other thing I wanted to say is like, especially as an entertainer who really has worked very hard to get what she has, and I'm not diminishing that, but like, we are all working hard. Our dreams are just different than yours. And nobody's shitting on the way you built your dreams. Don't shit on the way we're building ours. You know?
Right.
And I want to say, Allie, too, that, you know, you're saying, of course, she has a right to her opinion, and she certainly does. But it comes down to the issue of celebrities in general and the fact that they have such a broad platform.
Right. You have to be careful, right?
She has the ability to shape a public opinion here.
Yes.
And it is so concerning to me that she is belittling this community in a way that has the potential to impact not only the reputation of it, but to impact people who will then like want to make use of it. You know, this community is a
Yes.
lifeline for so many people. So if
Yes.
some people read that article and think like, oh, I'm going through this pain and suffering, but that community is obviously not for me, then you're cutting off a lifeline
Completely.
to people potentially. I mean, I don't want to be melodramatic, but it's like, you know, you just have a responsibility with your words,
Yes.
whether you like it or not. And
Right. Because
and to
I think
cause harm is really very different than just to share your story.
absolutely. You're right. You're totally right. And I think the reason that, or the way that she frames the community, and it could be somebody's, you know, someone reading this article that doesn't know anything about infertility. That's their first take on it. And exactly what you said, Sophie, that someone might be like, oh, I don't want to join that weird cult where they like, you have to make sweatshirts on Etsy, you know, like the way that it was just mocking. And it's such
so
a
reductive.
False, narrow-minded representation.
So reductive. Reductive is the perfect word.
Yes. I've seen that around and it just captures it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's also the aspect of like, look, we all can attest to the factory. We sometimes feel that we're a cog in the wheel of a fertility clinic, but she also really disrespected in a way the medicine, the world of modern medicine. And yeah, like there are problems within the infertility clinics. And that part didn't feel such a betrayal to me because it might have to the doctors and that's not my issue. But she was given the choice at 31 to have a hysterectomy. Like women have had to live with, and I'm not saying they should, but they've had to live with the pain of endometriosis forever and ever and ever. And I don't ever want them to have to live with that pain. But because she has privilege and medical care and the foresight to go to a doctor and get the treatment that she needs, she was able to, as an adult woman, make that choice that so many are not able to make. So don't also shit on that system. You know, I just feel like she was looking every gift horse in the mouth, and it's just not an appropriate way to amplify the platform.
Absolutely. So was there any responses that you guys got from any of the posts that surprised you, or like people that, you know, I would say overwhelmingly, most people disagreed with a lot of it, but there is a faction of like people that were like, she said things that I feel. So I think it's worth acknowledging that too. You know, this is not everything is for everybody, obviously.
And that really, really spoke to me. Katie, I'm so sorry. I'm Chasing Creation. What is her? Okay. Chasing Creation. So beautifully articulated and really ultimately ended up telling me she was sorry for being so heated. And I told her no apology necessary because it hit everyone's response rallying around our side of this community. I can understand would be triggering for somebody who desperately wants a child, didn't choose not to have one, and is struggling still with that reality. And I just think that she so beautifully highlighted that perspective. And it's funny because I saw it and responded to it under your post of something that I had written.
Oh, okay.
And simultaneously, Sophie had screenshot it and texted it to me and said, this is the perspective I think we always need to remember to listen to. And it was the same exact comment, which just goes to show how relevant and poignant it was.
Right.
And it's true. I do want to learn more about speaking about that community. And the whole point of us as IVF warriors, infertility warriors, speaking out is to continue to educate people on how to talk about us and what makes us good and what makes us feel bad. And so similarly, I want to make sure we include that perspective too.
Completely. Cause, you know, I had talked to her on a side note as well. And, you know, she was saying there's like I don't want to misquote her. So this is just my interpretation, but you know, there's two different or more than two. There's various groups within this big group, right? Within this big community. And like you said, there's the childless, not by choice group, which, you know, I had her on my podcast last year, and it was because she had reached out to me and was like, hey, what about me? You never talk to anybody. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I never want to overlook, you know, what you've gone through. And I think what she was trying to say to me, at least about this article, was that, you know, while one kind of group was hurt and felt like it was an unfair characterization, one group felt seen and validated to a certain degree, which I think is really worth talking about more.
Yeah, that is exactly the word that I was going to use, Allie, is seen, that she felt seen. I've seen multiple comments from people in that sort of sub community, childless not by choice, who have said, wow, this article really made me feel seen, which I think is so resonant and we can all very much relate to. And I truly appreciate that because all of us have struggled to feel seen. And so the fact that this article was able to provide that for people is really important. And the fact that it had to happen at the expense of other people just detracts from it, if anything else, if anything. You know, I mean, there's a way to help others feel seen without then, you know, bashing the people who helped us, you know, feel seen in the first place. And so that's the sticking point for me. I want to be able to honor that. It's a beautiful thing that she gave voice to something that I certainly take responsibility for not giving voice to enough. And I think our community, our larger community, meaning the infertility community, clearly has some work to do on this point. Right. So I don't want to overlook that.
Hold that thought, guys. This episode is being sponsored in part by Thrive Cosmetics, an independent, woman-founded and owned beauty brand that specializes in high-performance makeup and skincare that's both vegan and cruelty-free. Now, we all know the holidays provide the perfect excuse to get a little more glammed up than usual. And Thrive Cosmetics is a new beauty brand I've discovered and really fallen in love with. And right now, they have some amazing discounted sets that are perfect for gifting. Plus, for every product you buy, they donate to help a woman thrive. Now, talk about holiday cheer. Also, you guys know I love me a female-founded and owned company, and Thrive takes it one step further. Their mission is called Bigger Than Beauty, which means that for every purchase, they donate much-needed products and funds to nonprofit partners nationwide who are helping women face significant challenges to thrive again. All right, now let's talk about some of their high-performance products. Thrive Cosmetics products are made with skin-loving ingredients, and they're formulated without parabens, sulfates, and phthalates. And a lot of the sets right now include a free tube of Thrive Cosmetics best-selling Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara, which is one of my faves. This is the mascara you may have heard about that is sold every 5 seconds. It's flake-free, smudge-free, and clump-free, and it's got more than 7,000 5-star reviews, and it also won Glamour's Best Clean Beauty Product of 2020 award for the best mascara. I was wearing it the other day, and my daughter Ever said, "Mom, are you wearing fake lashes?" And I wasn't. I was just wearing their Lash Extensions mascara. So here's the thing. You can start thriving and help women in need today by going to thrivecosmetics.com/infertileaf for 15% off your first purchase. That's Thrive, CAUSE, medics.com/infertileaf for 15% off. Thanks so much, Thrive. Yeah. What do you think, Abby?
I agree. We do have some work to do on that point. And in some ways, I guess then without this article having been written and come out there, we wouldn't have known that. And so that's some good that came of it, I suppose. But like Sophie said, I just don't believe in shaming some for the benefit of others. I think we all agree on that.
Right.
You know,
Completely.
And I just wonder to myself, like, what is she thinking right now? Is she like, wow, you know, I really put some art into the world in my writing. Like, I just really want to know.
Yeah.
And
how can we find out? Because I was wondering that too. Like, is she pleased with like dropping this bomb on our community and then watching like everybody, all the shrapnel, like everybody, you know, because it's like literally had people talking for 2 days.
Well, which I'm sure is very rewarding to her in a way, right? As a provocateur, that means it's getting traction, having conversation, right? Even negative attention can be good attention sometimes in that world. But I'm also so curious because, you know, I had these two primary takeaways from this article. Like, A, I should feel guilty and ashamed for being part of this community, right? This larger infertility community. And B, that, oh, wow, people who are experiencing infertility, as I mentioned, might read this and feel even less able to reach out for help. So like, congratulations, Lena. Like, you just took your profound story of loss and grief and reckoning and kind of turned it into a weapon. So how do you feel? Does that feel like, do you feel better yet? I don't.
Yeah.
I'm also,
and
so
that
curious.
was like, so many of the comments were like, she sounds like a scorned ex-girlfriend, you know, and it did feel from some kind of not professional, but psychological opinion. It was almost like in case somebody came out against her decision to stop trying to have a baby, she wanted to reject our community before they publicly rejected her. Yeah, like preemptively. It honestly felt a little bit that way to me. And, you know, it is at the expense of actually alienating people from reaching out and getting the help that they need. Then I don't know, as a provocateur, like I don't feel like that was her intention.
Right.
But maybe I'm naive and I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. I'm wondering, like, does she realize how much pain she's caused?
Well, yeah. And I don't think so at all. And I want to say, you know, just Abbe and I have a coaching business called InCircle Fertility. So the fact that our professional lives are dedicating to coaching women and couples who are just navigating this process, who are really in the thick of it, we have that bias for sure. My immediate bias was like, oh, people are going to read this and not want to come forward and ask for help. And our whole life's work is dedicated to offering that help. But I want to make sure to say that I'm not going to put that on her, that like she actually had that in mind, that, oh, I'm going to try and create this barrier to entry for support, for your lifeline support. So I don't want to take it that far.
Yeah. I think part of my issue, I'd love to hear like a couple more specifics from you guys about what were certain like lines in the article. I don't know if you have it pulled up or anything, but
yeah, you know what? I'm looking at, there is that one, I think you quoted it at some point about I don't see, I'm going to look for it while we talk.
Yeah.
Like, the only people worse to the infertility community than a mother having a baby are those who stop trying to have a baby.
Yes. That line really really, really bothered me. And I was like,
that line seemed to have resonated with everybody.
Right. She wrote, I found it. If there's one person less welcome among the IVF warriors than a new mother, it is a woman who has given up on becoming one. And I mean, I think that's maybe the crux of it, is like a lot of people felt really irked by that. But then I think a lot of people might've felt seen by that line. Like that's the line, I think, where, you know, that really is.
Because that is an attempt to define the entire quote IVF warriors community. That's gonna yield a lot of different opinions when you try and like narrow it down to that one line.
Right. And I think part of the problem is like she comes across as so definitive in her opinions.
Yeah.
It's like
such an expert.
This is the way that it is. And this is the way that it is. And like it's like, no, it's A, it's different for everybody. And B, what you're rejecting this community, but now you're like defining it. Like that juxtaposition really kind of bothered me.
Agree.
I have a line, and I know this was a line that really got to Abbe as well. But where let me just try and pull this up. You know, she's talking about something being weirdly cheap. Oh, the lawyer's fees, right? Being weirdly cheap. She said, you know, quote, really cheap, I said, living in the exact state of delusion that I've been attempting to observe in this piece. So she uses the word delusion or delusional more than once in this piece, directed at other people, right? Yes, that line is a little bit about her own delusion, but she's saying the delusion of all of these people, including that whole, you know, the whole reborn community. And that to me was really what stung the most is calling other people delusional in the way that they communicate and cope and grieve is, again, just mean-spirited and cruel. That's the only way I can think of to describe it.
And similarly, she says the women have given up jobs, moved across the country, gotten divorced, and then remarried, losing friends and precious fertilized embryos along the way in a process that is designed to make Mother Nature your bitch. And to defy a basic fact of human existence dating back to blah, 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 the Bible. And she's right. And people do that. And you know what? So fucking what? Like that is our choice to do. And you were going to do it too. In fact, here you are. If you could. And here you are 4 years later, since your journey started, still thinking about it, still angry about it, and still writing about it. So I think it's still sitting with you too.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I think the bigger takeaway from all of this is like we all know so well, like infertility never leaves you, right? I mean, she's still in pain from
very much so. This article screams pain.
Right. And I think that, you know, that begs the question, which I wanted to read one comment that somebody put on my post, which made me think, and it begs the question, which I think would be a good way to kind of wrap this up, is like, how can we do better? right? How can we serve more people, and how can we not exclude people, and how can we keep the conversation going without hurting people? So somebody made this comment and said, an insular community with one definition of truth doesn't make a community.
I saw that, Allie.
All ideas and opinions being shared make a community. In my experience, the bonding of this community does often come from who has it worst and a never give up mentality that can be taxing and ill-aligned with the truth of so many. I respect that we all read this with the overlay of our own experiences and hope a dose of open-mindedness to the truth of others can be remembered. And I thought that comment was like, whoo, that's a
very impactful.
Very impactful. Sure. Yeah.
Hold on, before we even, and I want to, as part of that, I just want to also acknowledge, she talks about so much about the whiteness of the
I was just going to say that, Abby.
And I'm not trying to rush you guys at all. I just.
No, of course. I know.
Talk about it.
We could go on for days on this. We basically are on Instagram. I just wanted to say, and I am a white woman and in severe debt from having gone through my journey. And that was my choice and I stand by it. But like, the access given to this is such a bigger problem about the world of the medical world. And I just feel like she threw it out there from her perspective without going into why women of color don't go down the IVF road as much, or what their lack of access to good healthcare looks like. And just sort of threw it out there as like another dig without actually explaining. There's so much I could unpack about just this part of it, but in terms of,
what do you wish she included, or explained better?
Well, just instead of sort of berating the white women who go down this path, talk about the other women who would love a better chance to go down this path as well. And there was just no empathy for it. It was just like one side of the fact. I'm not articulating myself very well on this. And Sophie is, as my best editor, can probably tell you exactly what I'm thinking, but like, she wasn't inclusive enough. I mean, that's sort of obvious, but I just wish she would have gone into why the demographics of IVF look the way that they do.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Just because I'm white and happen to have gone down this path doesn't mean I don't want everybody to have the opportunity to go down that path, but there's a lot of reasons that they don't.
Yeah. I mean, she says, it's again so reductive that she says IVF warriors are mostly white. White women are 5 times more likely than women of color to undergo fertility treatment. Yes, absolutely. And why is that? And again, by targeting the women who are currently going through it without actually acknowledging the systemic racism in our healthcare system, just feels like a little bit of a pseudo attempt to be socially conscious. And it doesn't.
But for the sake of dropping, it's like for the sake of saying you're socially conscious, but not actually going into depth as to what the reasoning is.
Right.
And it doesn't do the greater harm in our society, the greater, the inequity, the fundamental inequity. It doesn't do that any service or justice. So you're coming from this position of power because you have such a voice. Wow, you could really shed some light on this instead of just offering this very sort of shallow and narrow view of it.
Right. It's interesting to think of if she had a child or, something, what her take would be if it would be a totally different perspective and it wouldn't be this angry kind of ex-girlfriend scorned thing, or, I wonder what that would look like. Right. I would love to hear from her. And people are in comments are like, don't give her any more publicity. Don't give her. And I'm like, but I don't know. I feel like there needs to be a follow-up now now that I hope it gets back to her that she has enraged and lit up this whole community.
Well, I did send my post to Harper's Magazine and with no response, of course. And I think all of us, the 3 of us at least, should send this episode to both her publicist and Harper's Magazine, because I would love to be in conversation with her and actually hear her perspective and, see what she has to say now. And I agree. And I'm curious, if she was doing this to push the envelope and be provocative, and if she therefore is reading the comments and the results or not, or she just wants to say her piece and be done with it,
Right. Yeah. I would think she'd probably want to see what the not backlash, but response is. The shake. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that all of this backlash is not just going to be reduced to, there's always going to be naysayers. I hope that these sort of reactions are taken as being substantial and legitimate and important, and not just, oh, there's always going to be, people who come back at you.
Right. No, I think it's important that the conversation was cracked open and that people are saying, their piece. And like I said at the top, it's like, it's not black and white. This is so layered and it's so complicated, and everybody's got slightly different opinions on slightly different parts of it, which I think is really healthy and good because it helps people change and grow, right? Like, I haven't met anybody who was like, oh, I'm totally steadfast in my opinion and I don't want to listen to somebody else's. Like, that's what another thing I love about our community is, like, I do feel like people are willing to listen to each other and be like, oh, you're right. Yeah, I shouldn't have said that. Or I took that the wrong way, or I should have dug a little deeper before I did X, Y, and Z. Because when you do have a platform, you have to be careful of what you say because you don't want to hurt people.
And we are, as a community, we are so deeply empathetic and compassionate and sensitive because of what we have all been through. So we are coming from that position no matter what. And again, we don't always get it right.
Right.
But I just want to reiterate that we can relate to other people's pain and suffering on such a profound level, so that is what gives us the space to be able to stand corrected when necessary, and also to communicate how we feel, which is very justified in this case. Yeah.
What else do you guys think we can do to be better and like be more inclusive as a whole?
I really would personally, I would be like that. The Chasing Creation really struck a chord with me. I would really just like to learn how to better serve that piece, that part of the community, in terms of listening and making them feel seen and heard and making space for them. So I think that for me, that's the good that's come of this for me, that I think, well, as a community, we need to be better about.
Yeah.
And those of us with the platform, like Abbe and I for InCircle Fertility, are going to be highlighting one person every month in the circle column. We will definitely be including women and couples from the childless not by choice community. Yeah. Because those of us with the platform have that responsibility to lift up those voices as well. Yeah. So I think that's how we can be better. Those of us who do have reach and are coming from a position where we can influence awareness.
Yeah, completely. And I think, Abbe, you had said, was it you that was like, Chrissy Teigen, we need your voice here.
We need you, Chrissy. I need her so bad.
We got to get back on the horn with Chrissy, Lena, Katie from Chasing Creation.
And I just, so we're clear when we deal, I'll be like, what up, Chrissy? What up, Lena? What up? Like there might be no, but I think, by the way, Chrissy's dealing with all of her own stuff right now. Yeah. But I think ultimately she will have a voice. I think she'll have an opinion on this. I hope she does.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. And I hope it doesn't just die down and it wasn't just like the news story of the day, totally. I think,
Allie, what do you think we can do better? What do you
think? I think it's just, the diversity and highlighting different stories and just trying to make everybody feel seen. I think that's the gist of it. So
I wanted to say one other quick thing about sort of that's not a negative, but one downside about this community. And I don't know who posted it recently, and I don't know if either of you saw it, but somebody said that she had a friend or a client, I don't remember, who had to sort of get off of Instagram, who's going through infertility, because she was like, I don't own a letterboard and therefore I don't feel like I'm a part of this community. And that really struck me, because I was like, again, it is in one way so reductive. Like, that's not what we're about. And at the same time, are we really serving each other by just posting? Of course, it's not just posting a letterboard. There's so much behind it and so much thought and care that people put into their posts that they're accompanying with a photo of a letterboard. But that has really stuck with me in terms of what I put out there and in terms of what we can do better. Like, I want to make sure that there's thoughtful content behind what people are seeing.
Right. Completely. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I just wanted to add that.
No, I think that's a great point. And for people to not, I think it's just cheap shots, right? For people to just generalize like, oh, they all have a letterboard, or they all have an Etsy shop, or it's like,
right.
You don't need to stoop to that level.
Right.
And some of it is also just the way that this community is, by definition, a community that lives on social media for the most part.
Right.
And so it is at the behest of everything that social media is about, which a lot of it is about just headlines and sort of just, not really delving into much.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad that if it wasn't for social media, we wouldn't have
exactly
met. And I think that there's 99% of the people in this community are really trying to do good and be inclusive. And, we all make mistakes and we're all learning. And I think that if we can all just keep pushing forward and trying to listen to each other and keep the conversation going, then it will just keep getting better and better, I hope.
I agree. Thank you for moving so swiftly to make this happen.
Oh my gosh. I was like, we got to get on the phone tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank you, Allie, so much.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I love you both.
We love you.
Same here, girl.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening, guys. So glad that you took the time. And like I said, we are all learning and growing and evolving. So if nothing else, I hope that this just improves our community and that everybody can have a chance to feel seen and heard and tell their stories. So I also wanted to say, if you don't know yet about Fertility Rally, we are a 24/7 community, content, curated events. Come on over if you're looking for support, if you're going through this. You can find us on IG at Fertility Rally or online at fertilityrally.com. And we would love to have you check out our site and become a member. We're always looking to expand our family. So thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next time.